I mean, you guys are unfortunately kind of familiar with injury updates this season, but I imagine yesterday's was probably pretty tough. Just what's the reaction been from you guys, the players, the coaches, to losing Sid and Airy?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, just brokenhearted for them. They're two really good people that you hate to see this happen to. They've been an integral part of what we've been doing, and so hate it for them. So I think now it's about playing to honor them, right, and playing for them. I think I said it early when C was out the very first time. Sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise because everybody else finds themselves, right, and no one is afraid to make the big play offensively or defensively. And so I think it's just we got a really good group that's unselfish, that want to win, that play well together and for each other. And when one person doesn't have it, somebody else does. And I think it makes this really, really difficult to scout when that happens.
Stephanie White just got completely exposed for her shocking double standard when it comes to treating Caitlin Clark compared to every other player on the Indiana Fever roster. And honestly, the evidence is so damning that fans are now demanding she gets fired before she can do any more damage to this team. We're talking about a coach who called her franchise-altering superstar's injury a blessing in disguise, while practically breaking down in tears over role players getting hurt. The contrast is so blatant, so disrespectful, that it reveals a truth many have suspected all season. Stephanie White may not want Caitlin Clark on her team. If you're absolutely disgusted by this blatant favoritism and you think Stephanie White needs to be fired immediately before she ruins Caitlin Clark's career, smash that like button and drop Fire Whites in the comments, because this story is about to expose just how deep this coach's bias against Clark really goes and why the Fever front office needs to make a change before it's too late.
She's really happy Caitlin Clark's not playing. I gotta believe that at this point. How could you ever say it's a blessing in disguise to lose your best player? So they all can get confidence in doing what exactly? Do you think Sophie Cunningham without Caitlin Clark is going to be better than Sophie Cunningham with Caitlin Clark? Hell no. Sophie Cunningham is going to see so many open looks playing next to Caitlin Clark. Aaliyah Boston's game has clearly regressed without Caitlin Clark. When Caitlin doesn't play, Leah Boston doesn't typically play all that great. Lexi Hull has become virtually invisible without Caitlin Clark. I think we all know by now that Lexi Hull doesn't function unless Caitlin Clark plays. And you're sitting here saying that she is a blessing in disguise, that she's...
The entire controversy exploded during a recent pre-game media session before the Fever's matchup against the Chicago Sky. When a reporter asked White about the season-ending injuries to Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson, her entire demeanor shifted. She became visibly emotional, her voice filled with genuine sadness. She began by saying she was brokenhearted for them, emphasizing that they are two really good people that you hate to see this happen to. You could feel the personal connection she had with these players. She went on to call them an integral part of what we've been doing, stressing how much their presence in the locker room would be missed. She painted a picture of two beloved teammates whose loss was a deep, personal blow to the team's spirit. Her response was heartfelt, empathetic, and everything you would expect from a coach who truly cares about her players as human beings. It was the kind of response that makes you believe in a team's culture, but it's this very response that ultimately exposed her.
That doesn't even make sense. Like, blessing in disguise that Michael Jordan ain't played for freaking 15 games. Blessing in disguise that LeBron James ain't. That's ridiculous, because the second she gets back, they're going to go back into their actual role of what they're supposed to do. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise for Stephanie White because she doesn't really care for Caitlin Clark and doesn't really want to have to deal with running Caitlin Clark offense over motion, where Caitlin Clark isn't the focal point of.
Now, let's rewind the tape to earlier this season, when the biggest star in women's basketball, Caitlin Clark, was sidelined with a groin injury. The injury that had the entire sports world holding its breath. When asked about Clark being out, Stephanie White's tone was drastically different. There were no emotional words, no talk of being brokenhearted. Instead, she delivered a cold, calculated, and almost dismissive analysis. She said, "While we don't like that she's out, sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise, because everybody else finds themselves. No one is afraid to make the big play offensively and defensively. Let that sink in. The absence of your generational talent, the player who single-handedly resurrected your franchise from obscurity, is framed as a blessing." She didn't express concern for Clark's well-being. She immediately pivoted to the supposed benefits of her not being on the court. The subtext was deafening. She seemed to suggest that Clark's presence was somehow holding her teammates back, making them afraid to make the big play.
But when your team suddenly rips off a 5-game winning streak without a superstar and the coach start using phrases like blessing in disguise, you have to start reading between the lines. It's like being the star employee who goes on medical leave only to come back and find your team hit all their targets without you, and your duties have been reassigned and everyone seems just a little too happy. Do you build the company around the brilliant, rule-breaking founder? Or do you force that founder to conform to the safe, predictable corporate structure? Coach Stephanie White is known for a value in a team first system where the ball moves and everyone contributes. Then you have Caitlin Clark. She doesn't just fit into a system, she is the system. Her talent is so massive it fundamentally changes how the game is.
This isn't just a simple slip of the tongue. It's a Freudian slip that reveals a deeply problematic mindset. How could any coach in their right mind ever describe losing their best player as a blessing? Do you think Phil Jackson ever called a Michael Jordan injury a blessing in disguise? Did Greg Popovich celebrate when Tim Duncan was on the bench? The idea is ludicrous. Superstars are the system. Their gravity is what creates opportunities for everyone else. Aaliyah Boston's game has visibly struggled at times without Clark to draw defensive attention. Lexi Hull, who thrives on the open looks Clark creates, can become almost invisible. The notion that the team is better off with role players trying to find themselves instead of having a transcendent talent orchestrating the offense is coaching malpractice. The fan reaction was instantaneous and brutal. Social media erupted with one viral post stating, "A very different answer than the one she gave about playing without Caitlin Clark." It was clear to everyone watching, Stephanie White showed more genuine emotion and concern for two bench players than she did for the cornerstone of her franchise, and that is an unforgivable sin in the eyes of the fans who pay her salary.
Is Stephanie White a good coach? No, she not. Stephanie Jigsaw White, because I'm mad. Man, look. She is incompetent as a coach. She is unintelligent. She doesn't develop players. There's a reason why those women, when she was coaching in college, had a little 2 years coaching in college with that horrible record. Those women was transferring and leaving that school and leaving her dry as they should. She's a cancer. She's just a cancer in the locker room, just in the workplace. Like, y'all can't tell me that she not sabotaging the team on purpose. You can't tell me.
The blessing in disguise comment is the smoking gun, but the evidence of White's bias against Clark has been piling up all season. It goes back to her fundamental coaching philosophy and strategic decisions that seem designed to minimize rather than maximize Clark's historic talent. At the beginning of the season, many analysts expected White to build the entire offense around Clark, implementing a fast-paced, high-movement system similar to what allowed Clark to shatter records at Iowa. That's what smart coaches do. They adapt their system to fit their generational player. Instead, White did the exact opposite. She forced Clark into a slow, methodical, half-court offense that often felt clunky and predictable. She insisted on running a system that didn't play to Clark's strengths of transition offense, deep three-point shooting, and incredible court vision. It felt like trying to force a Ferrari to drive like a cargo truck.
Look, Stephanie White, she have her little favorites. Coach your team. Are you trying to keep your coaching job long-term, or you want to just look cool? Because right now, everything's starting to make sense to me at the end of the day. The more I watch these games and these rotations, it lets me know that she's doing this on purpose. Whoever giving her orders at top, I just need somebody to come in and just these little relationships with the presidents of the organization, whatever the case may be, the ticket holders, like they all in cahoots with each other, bro. And
the personnel decisions were just as baffling. She championed bringing in players like Natasha Howard, a traditional post player who, while talented, doesn't fit the playing style that would best complement a guard like Clark. The offense often stagnated, with Clark being used as a decoy or forced to navigate a crowded paint instead of being given the space to create. It led to frustrating losses and head-scratching late-game collapses. Fans and analysts alike were screaming at their televisions, wondering why the coach was actively working against her own best player. The blessing in disguise comment wasn't an isolated incident. It was the verbal confirmation of the strategic sabotage many had been witnessing all season. It suggests a coach who resents the star she was given, preferring a team of lesser talents where she, the coach, could be the star of the show. She seems to value her system more than the most talented player to ever enter the WNBA, and that ego-driven approach is a recipe for disaster.
I'm so
tired of Stephanie White, man. Y'all wanted this woman so badly, bruh. She makes dumb decisions, man. Like, what kind of no-brainer would it be to play Chloe Bibby, one of your players that's been hot shooting, versus a team that was firing on all cylinders, bro? And you could have put her out there to match that, man, because she has a jumper. Stephanie White doesn't make any sense, man. Goofy as hell. Just stupid. Like I don't understand what she thinks, man. I'm going to play my player that's come out shooting hot for only 2 minutes for the game. No sense, man.
This brings us to a darker, more conspiratorial question that fans are now openly asking: is Stephanie White doing this on purpose? Is there something more going on behind the scenes? Some of the online commentary has been scathing, with fans calling her Stephanie Jigsaw White and a cancer in the locker room. One particularly harsh but resonant comment suggested she might be sabotaging the team on purpose. While that sounds extreme, her actions make you wonder, why would a coach consistently make decisions that handicap their best player? Why would she publicly celebrate her absence? It feels like a power struggle. It's the classic dilemma. Do you build the company around the brilliant rule-breaking founder, or do you force that founder to conform to the safe, predictable corporate structure? White is choosing the latter, and it's kneecapping the entire franchise. Her comments suggest she enjoys the periods when Clark is injured, because it allows her to run her preferred style of basketball without the pressure and media attention that comes with coaching a global icon. It's as if she finds Clark's talent to be an inconvenience to her own coaching identity. This theory is bolstered by her past. The source text mentions her horrible record in a 2-year college coaching stint, where players were reportedly transferring to get away from her. Is history repeating itself? Is she a coach who is unable to manage elite talent and high expectations? The more you look at the evidence, the more it seems plausible that her decisions aren't just incompetence. They could be driven by a resentment of Clark's star power and a desire to prove she can win without her, even if it means losing in the process. It's a toxic mindset that has no place in professional sports, especially when the future of a league-altering talent is at stake. The implications of this favoritism are devastating and ripple through every aspect of the organization. Let's start with the locker room. Players are not naive. They see how the coach talks about different teammates in public. They see the strategic decisions on the court. When the head coach shows more public affection and concern for role players than for the franchise superstar, it sends a confusing and divisive message. It creates an environment where jealousy and resentment can fester. Caitlin Clark, by all accounts, has been a model professional. She has never publicly criticized White, never complained about her usage, and has always taken responsibility. She has done everything a coach could ask for. To see her treated with such cold dismissiveness, while others are coddled, must be incredibly isolating. This isn't just about feelings, it's about team chemistry. A team cannot win a championship if its best player feels unsupported by the coaching staff. It erodes trust and undermines the very foundation of a winning culture. Beyond the locker room, the developmental damage White's approach could inflict on Clark is perhaps the most frightening aspect of this whole situation. Clark is still in the early stages of her professional career. This is a critical time for her to be nurtured, for her skills to be honed, and for her confidence to be built at the pro level. Instead, she has a coach who seems to view her as a problem to be managed, rather than an asset to be maximized. White's system is constraining her, not unleashing her. Wasting even 1 year of a player like Clark's prime is a tragedy. These are the years where she should be building the foundations of a legendary career. By treating her absence as a blessing, White is sending a clear message that she doesn't value Clark's development as much as she values her own control over the team's identity. This short-sighted approach could stunt the growth of the most important player the WNBA has ever seen, and that is an organizational failure of epic proportions. Let's talk about the money, because in professional sports, money talks. Caitlin Clark isn't just a basketball player. She is an economic engine. Her arrival in the WNBA has led to unprecedented spikes in ticket sales, merchandise revenue, television ratings, and sponsorship deals. She is the golden goose, not just for the Indiana Fever, but for the entire league. Franchises are moving games to larger arenas just to accommodate the Caitlin Clark effect. She is making everyone's paychecks bigger. For her own head coach to treat her as an inconvenience is not just bad coaching, it's an act of financial self-sabotage. It shows a shocking disconnect from the business realities of the sport. Any competent front office would understand that their #1 priority is to protect and promote their most valuable asset. The fact that Stephanie White can't even pretend to be concerned about Clark's health while gushing over players who contribute a fraction of Clark's value proves she is completely out of touch. The Fever front office's tolerance of this behavior is equally concerning. It raises serious questions about their competence and their commitment to building a championship organization. They are fumbling the most valuable asset in women's sports history. To truly understand the magnitude of Stephanie White's failure, you have to compare her to the great coaches who knew how to handle superstars. Look at how Eric Spoelstra in Miami didn't ask LeBron James to fit into the old Heat system. He evolved his coaching to create a new system that maximized LeBron's unique talents. Look at how Steve Kerr built the entire Golden State Warriors dynasty by creating an offense that unleashed Stephen Curry's revolutionary shooting, not one that suppressed it. And of course, there's Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan. Jackson didn't see Jordan's individual dominance as a problem for team chemistry. He built the triangle offense to harness that dominance while elevating the role players around him. These legendary coaches understood a fundamental truth that Stephanie White clearly does not. You don't ask a generational talent to conform to a system. You build the system around the generational talent. That is how dynasties are born. White's approach is the exact opposite. She is trying to break the star to fit her outdated mold, and it's a philosophy that belongs in a bygone era of basketball. Her public comments and strategic choices make her look not just biased but amateurish in comparison to her successful peers. The fallout from White's exposed double standard is reaching a boiling point, and the Fever organization is at a critical crossroads. The fan revolt is real and it is growing. The paying customers, the season ticket holders, the merchandise buyers, the television viewers are invested in this team because of Caitlin Clark. They are not tolerating the disrespect of their favorite player. The hashtag #FireWhite isn't just a fringe movement, it's a mainstream sentiment among a fan base that feels betrayed. They see a coach who is actively undermining the player who brought their team back from the dead. The front office needs to listen to its customer base. Their silence on this matter is deafening and can be interpreted as either cowardice or tacit approval of White's behavior. Every game that passes with White at the helm is a missed opportunity, a day of wasted potential for Clark, and another crack in the foundation of the franchise. The bottom line is this: Stephanie White has proven through her own words and actions that she does not have the right mindset, strategy, or emotional intelligence to coach a player of Caitlin Clark's caliber and importance. Her emotional investment in role players, combined with her cold, dismissive, and strategically damaging attitude toward her franchise star, has created an untenable situation. You cannot build a championship team when the coach publicly celebrates the absence of its best player. It's coaching malpractice at the highest level. The Indiana Fever organization needs to decide what it wants to be. Does it want to be a franchise defined by a coach's ego and a commitment to a mediocre system, or does it want to be the franchise that builds a dynasty around the most electrifying talent in women's basketball history? The choice is obvious. The evidence is overwhelming. The fans have spoken. The time for action is now. Making an immediate coaching change is no longer a drastic measure. It is the only logical step to save Caitlin Clark's development, restore faith in the organization, and finally begin the real work of building a champion.